Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Retro Roster, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We are here today, mostly avoiding talking anything about some show that WWE want to do in a country that has no respect for its citizens or any other citizens around the world. So we're delving deep into the archive and going back all the way to the halcyon days of 1992. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, is before you were born?
Yes, 2 years before I was born.
Right. And and we're looking at the SummerSlam of that year. SummerSlam 1992, right here in England, in Wembley Stadium, which was the last time that we had a pay-per-view event in the United Kingdom. Well, unless you count NXT TakeOver London.
Yeah.
Which I don't. Yeah.
No, I don't.
1992 doesn't exist, says Hollymer, because it was 2 years before I was born too, aka the before times. It was also before Harmstone was born. Right, well...
Great. Still make years feel old.
Thanks for that. So, very, very... very much. Thank you for that. Yes, but 1992 was a cracking year. So if you weren't there, then joke's on you. It was great. Not only for SummerSlam 1992, but for such things as the year before Power Rangers came out. Yeah, I really don't know anything good from 1992. Let's have a quick Google. What else was happening in 1992? Oh my god, these are some bad films. Right, yeah, okay. Oh, Aladdin. Aladdin. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Come on, that's a good one. Lethal Weapon 3.
That's alright.
That's a good one as well. A Few Good Men. Very, very not popular, but like acclaimed film. Sister Act, not a fan myself,
no.
but you know, again, acclaimed and well loved. And another one I'm not a huge, massive fan of, but people love, Wayne's World.
Oh God,
yeah, people like that one. So there you go. That was 1992 in film. I'm glad we could clear up that there was something else good in 1992. But yeah, I mean, 1993 was definitely better. I have very fond memories of the summer of 1993. But I can't say I have any memories from 1992. If I'm honest. I was 6 in 1992.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, we've got some other people arriving. Matt's Music House. I was maybe 6 months old. So, well, I can give you an exact date, Matt's Music House, and you can calculate it. So, as we actually crack into this event a little bit, SummerSlam 1992 was recorded on August 29th, 1992, and then was broadcast August 31st, 1992. So
yeah,
it began. Well, I didn't say began. It continued the tradition of taping the pay-per-view and then broadcasting it on what I assume was the Monday night. What was the what day was August 31st, 1992? It was a Monday. I'm correct. Good. I like when I make things up and then it becomes true. Yeah. So they would record them on the weekend and then broadcast them on the Monday night instead of going live in that day. Or satellite television was cheap.
Yeah.
He also said he was a decade older than me, Harmstone. Well, when were you born, Holly? I thought you were born in like 96, 95 or something. Like a decade is relative, even if it was 9 years later.
Yeah.
Like 1994, as per what she said earlier. I also can't read, okay?
Yeah, you can't read.
Yeah. When were you, Dan? 95?
I was 94.
You're 94 as well. Okay. I keep thinking for some reason that you're the same age as my brother.
March 1994.
There you go. You're a year older than my brother, as is Holly. Harmstone, I don't know how old Harmstone is, but he has the soul of a 67-year-old, so we'll assume that he's 67 until proven otherwise. Yep, that's my stance on that, and that is where we'll begin our show tonight. Normally we don't do news on the retro roster, but there's some news this week, as we record here on October 12th, 2021, that is very relevant to this show and very relevant to classic wrestling. And it gives me a chance to play the Sting on the retro roster, and who doesn't want that? Here's the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I've got some news.
Dun, 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 dun.
And it's sad news, actually, as Dan laughs away, that unfortunately, mid last week, October the 7th, Reggie Parks, who, as well as being a wrestler in his day, was the creator of the Winged Eagle Championship belts and other iconic belts, including my favourite, the Big Eagle Championship belt, which is actually but is not actually, wink wink, the basis for the main roster championship belt that unfortunately, yes, Harmstone, Dan does still possess. What's Dan's favourite sort of belt? Well, he doesn't really have a favourite, hence why he's got so many, I think, is the answer to that.
It's the fact that there's more on the wall over there.
Yeah, he can't pick a favourite, so he just,
buys them all.
Yeah. That's a horny belt, I assume. I think it's more beaky and wingy than horny.
Yeah.
But
yes, it is the main roster one.
It's a bit of sad news, but he was 87. It's not like he's been taken away too soon, and he leaves a massive legacy on the wrestling industry. In addition to those two belts that we discussed, some of the other favourite belts that people really dig. The old school Intercontinental Championship, held here by Bret Hart's torso, but not his head. The Attitude Era WWF Tag Team Championships, as seen here. And I assume this Sting picture is the WCW belt. I don't think he created Sting's face. He might have created Sting's face, but
probably the WCW.
It is. It's the
World.
Useful. Can't scroll. There you go. I'll do that a little bit. But it is the old WCW World Championship before they moved to the big gold, which is the most iconic of the WCW's belts.
All good belt design.
They are all great belt designs. Yeah.
On it even.
And a little known fact, this tag team championship design, for a very brief time, actually had some life as the WWF championship.
Yeah.
In that time when Ric Flair decided to leave various companies with the belts and wouldn't hand the belts back, and it was complicated. But they quickly made a championship belt, and it was this belt. They later reused it for the tag team championships. Yeah. That's why it says World on it in huge letters in the middle. Yeah. Sad news, but also gives us an opportunity to pay respects to him. And kudos, Mr. Parks. Thank you for your contributions.
Yes, thank you very much.
As we crack on through the show here today, we will see his fingerprints.
Yeah.
On the championship belts that he created.
Absolutely.
That were used in this era.
Yeah.
But shall we crack into SummerSlam? It wasn't a short show, surprisingly, for the shows of this era. Normally they were 2 hours and done, so this one was nearly 3 hours.
3 hours, so it was a decent amount.
Yes.
So SummerSlam 1992 got underway with a lot of British pomp and circumstance. Scenes from Buckingham Palace, talking to kids with Cockney accents, and orange girls with too much makeup. Yeah, true British experience.
Mhm.
We're then taken inside Wembley Stadium and are introduced to our commentary team, Sir Bobby the Brain Heenan and Vince McMahon.
Yes, indeed. He started the show as Sir Bobby the Brain Heenan, and then later referred to himself as the King of England later in the show. So I'm not sure which one was true. Maybe both. Maybe neither. You be the judge. You be the judge of that. Whether he, for a period, was the King of England.
Yeah.
Now, I did like that they did the panorama of Wembley Stadium, because it gave me a chance, as somebody who's been to the new quote-unquote Wembley Stadium. They basically knocked it down and then rebuilt it exactly the same as far as I'm concerned. And that may trigger some fans of Wembley Stadium. But I liked seeing the outside of it, and I don't even know what the area is called. The part where you go up the steps and you're around the arena, the bit where you're waiting to come out.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what word to use for that, but to see how similar it was, but yeah, different. And it cast me back, again, because I'm old, to memories of my first WWE shows at Wembley Arena, which is right outside Wembley Stadium. But the first time I went in 2005, 2006, they were doing the new Wembley. They were rebuilding it, and so it was just massive barriers, walls that they'd put up to protect people from falling debris and dust and all that kind of stuff. And I drove 2 months after passing my driving test. I drove to London, which was a silly thing to do, but I did it anyway. And because of the fact that there were so many little side roads going up to Wembley that were blocked off for the building work, I actually managed to park right outside Wembley Stadium for absolutely nothing.
Brilliant.
Because it was just a bit of dead space that they said, yeah, people can park there, that'll do. Yeah. So
right.
I didn't fault it. I was quite happy with myself, especially considering I had no semblance of an idea, again, new driver, that I might have to book parking or consider where I might have put my car when I got there. I just assumed that, it's Wembley, they've got parking, right? Park underneath it, park on top of it, I don't know. Just go
park
there.
on top of it.
Yeah. Surely they've got somewhere to park. And the answer was no, other than me getting very, very lucky in this one space that I found.
You lucky chap.
I know. I was very happy with it.
What was the car?
It was a Ford Fiesta.
Nice.
Yeah. So I didn't have to, find a big space. I just had to find a space.
Good.
And to find a space I did. But that's a massive digression, which we're famous for on this show. Let's get into the opening contest, which was a tag team match with Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster with Jimmy Hart, taking on the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering and Rocco, a ventriloquist dummy. Did not know this was a thing. The match started off with DiBiase chopping Hawk and slamming him into the turnbuckle before escaping the ring for an early reprieve. He then tagged in IRS, who began a campaign to keep Hawk away from Animal. Hawk was almost passed out in a sleeper, but was able to recover thanks to the passion of the 80,000 plus strong British crowd. Frequent tags in and out continued to wear down Hawk. The match was turned around quickly when Hawk was able to make a hot tag to Animal, who was then able to pick up the pin on DiBiase after a stiff power slam. Opening contest, looking to get the crowd going. How did you feel about it? Do you think it did the job?
I think it got the crowd going. The them coming down on motorbikes and everything that got them going and all that. Hawk and Animal and favourites, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
But so was Money Inc. though. I've got to say, I think people did dig them as heels, and it all worked out well. All went well.
Yeah, Ted DiBiase is a funny one, really, because
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen very many matches that he actually wrestled. Most of at least modern fans, their memories of Ted DiBiase is him as a manager, mostly.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to actually see him in the match. That was new for me, at least. I assume the majority of his actual wrestling took place in years previous to that, throughout the 80s, which is before my time, really. The only thing that I thought was a bit of a fail in this match, and I don't know if it was deliberate or whether it was an error, but they were setting up for the Doomsday Device.
Yeah.
They had Ted DiBiase on Animal's shoulders.
Yeah.
And just as they were going to do it, they didn't do it. They instead had IRS accidentally dropkick DiBiase off.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, why are you not trying to send the crowd home happy? They want to see the Doomsday Device.
Yeah.
They're going to win the match anyway. Why not end it after the Doomsday Device instead of just some random power slam? Like the ending came a bit abruptly for me.
Yeah. A bit of an anticlimax.
It was, yeah. You could have built it and kept building it, and then they finally hit the Doomsday Device.
Yeah.
Animal is fighting IRS out of the ring while they make the pin. Crowd go even wilder than they did.
It goes nuts. Job done.
Yeah, it just seemed like an opportunity missed, and I don't know if maybe Animal got lost and they kind of called an audible and had IRS dropkick him instead. But the same effect happened. If it was about Ted DiBiase not being slammed down from a great height, then that was a fail, because he did that anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure why they made the decision to not do the fan favorite move by the fan favorites in front of the fans that very rarely get wrestling and were massively into it and rabid. So just a slight irk from that match. The rest of it was fine, especially as an opening contest. I really dug that.
Oh,
onwards.
Moving on. So in the next contest, Nail took on Virgil. In the early part of the match, Virgil struggled to take down his larger opponent, and this allowed the former convict, Nails, to dominate the contest. With Virgil locked in the sleeper hold, he passed out, and Nails was declared the winner. After the match, Nails continued his beatdown and attacked Virgil with a nightstick, which he had taken from the Big Boss Man, whom he'd brutalized in the previous weeks.
Yeah, Holly, I will answer your question because it's a really good question. I'll do so after we talk about this match, which won't take very long. Nails, obviously the cross between a prison convict and a giant bumblebee. That's where you got the nails from. And not long after this match, there's a big thing about it if you want to read about it online. Nails was unhappy with his position in the company and the money that he got, specifically for this event, I believe. And he disgruntledly left the company, went to WCW, and then was sued, or at least WCW was sued, for having a gimmick that was too similar to this Nails prison convict character. And Nails was then one of the star witnesses against Vince McMahon in the big steroids case that took place in the 90s. But Nails lost all of his credibility on the stand when he basically said, I effing hate Vince McMahon's guts. Right, so you'd say pretty much anything to get him convicted of something then. Yeah, probably would. Right. So
Right.
thanks for your time. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Don't let the giant door hit you on the way out. Dun dun. Yeah. This match was... It was a match that happened, I think.
Yeah, this
if I'm gonna
was...
say it.
Out of all the matches, I think this was a match that happened.
Yeah, I mean, Virgil is... I don't want to say it, but I'm going to... The kind of the punchline of wrestling from the 90s, unfortunately. Especially when he got onto the convention scene after retiring and nobody was interested. It's a shame. It's a shame. And jobbing to guys like Nails, who is just your generic big guy with a bad gimmick from the 90s, didn't really do much to help him. So the match came. It was really building up someone else. It was building towards a return feud for Nails and the Big Boss Man, which I don't believe happened, and it was all just a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
So shame to go from, the heights of that tag team match with two favorite teams and get the crowd up, and then go straight to this where they basically sat on their hands for 10 minutes. It's a shame, but it is what it is. The crowd got back into the next match for sure. But first, a question from Holly. How come we don't get any wrestling over here anymore? Well, it's a bit of a complicated question after COVID, because we haven't had anything for the last 2 years for obvious reasons. But we were getting their weekly television shows, Raw and SmackDown, every year. Twice a year, in fact. We'd get them in April, and we'd get them in November, either October or November every year. Been doing that since 2004 was the first time that happened. But yeah, we'd been clamoring, we, being the British wrestling public, have been clamoring for years to get a pay-per-view, which is what they call the big events in wrestling, like this one, like SummerSlam and WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, etc. And it just hasn't happened. Now, part of that is that, especially 10 years ago and before, WWE did not want to broadcast an event outside of the American time zone, really. They wanted the event to happen at 7, 8 o'clock at night in American time, and that meant that to hold an event here in the UK, they would have to have the event at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because they want to broadcast it live, and they want it to be at a certain time. Therefore, that couldn't happen. Now, as content has moved more online and become more stream-based and more on-demand-based, and they launched the WWE Network and all of that, that has relaxed a little bit. They've done some shows outside of America, Australia, which for us, that was like, what did we get that? Like 1 in the afternoon or something like that? It was something pretty useful. Even though we don't touch them with a barge pole, they've been doing shows in Saudi Arabia. That's broadcast at 5 p.m. our time, which is like 8 o'clock in the morning in America. Or around that time. It's early in the morning anyway. So, yeah, they're working towards it. And the rumor is, fingers crossed, next year, the 30th anniversary of this SummerSlam that we're talking about, apparently we're getting SummerSlam again.
Yeah.
The principal candidates for getting it are Wembley Stadium, but no roof, so might rain. August in the UK is not as clear-cut sunshine as perhaps it used to be. And the other candidate is Principality Stadium in Cardiff, which has got a roof, so we'll probably win.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to worry about the rain or the elements, and they can pretty much get the same number of people into it, if not exactly the same, to be fair.
We will be there.
Absolutely, we will be there. Even if they, for some random reason, go and put it up in Scotland, we'll make our way up there. Yeah. And it is a fab stadium. I've not been there. I lived in Cardiff for 4 years, and I never went to like a Wales game or anything. I really should have. So I think even if SummerSlam is not in Principality Stadium, I'll probably try and get to a Wales game in the next couple of years, just to say that I've been there.
There you go.
Because I do like a stadium, no matter what's in it.
There you go.
Big fan of a stadium. So I hope that answered your question. Yes, Australia did get a big event before us. Well, not before us, because we had SummerSlam in 1992, but in recent memory, yes, they got it before us. As did Saudi Arabia, and where else did they go? Puerto Rico, but that's part of America technically, so that's fine. Yeah. Mexico, again, it's close, it's easy, same time zone.
Yeah. That's about it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't tend to venture too far away. Very insular are the WWE. But anyway, cracking on with the event and back into decent competition, in my opinion. It was the battle of the sexy people next. And perhaps it was also the battle for sensational Sherry, when the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels and the model Rick Martel squared off with this special stipulation that hits to the face were not allowed. The most high-paced contest of the night so far saw Michaels go crashing out of the ring in front of Sherry when he realised that he could not punch Martel in the face. The model embraced Sherry while HBK laid at ringside. When the match got back in the ring, each competitor tried to gain advantage by pulling the tights of the other, but they all ended up doing was baring the rear of their opponent to the crowd as the referee stopped his count when they tried to pull the tights. Things got more personal from here, and the pair began to slap each other in the face, which caused Sherry to faint on the ring apron, as you do. Michaels and Martel tried to resuscitate her, but ended up fighting their way up the ramp, drawing a double count-out and bringing the match to an end. The pair continued to fight over Sherry, literally and figuratively, up the ramp. Yeah. Not sure this whole thing ages very well. 20 years later, fighting over a woman whom... I don't know. It just seemed a bit weird.
Faints at slapping.
Yeah, you can't punch them in the face because if you do, it'll upset Sherry. That was weird. And then her fainting because they slapped each other. That was a little bit on the weird side as well. But I will say, massive kudos for the amount of bumps and spills that Sherry took on the ramp, because as they picked her up and started to carry her out because she was fainted unconscious, and then the other person jumped them and knocked them over and sent her flying. Fair play, she took her licks all the way up the ramp.
She took a few good bumps.
I'm not just talking, falling a little bit and being dropped. They were knocked flying, and she absolutely got slammed into what is essentially a concrete ground with a little bit of matting on it several times. But that was the thing with sensational Sherry. She was always hardcore. She could mix it up with anyone.
You can go for it.
So disappointed by the ending. It's kind of a theme that will run through the rest of this show, and I'll talk about it more at the end, but I'm not a big fan of the double count out.
No.
Nothing really was resolved, and it was just a case of let's carry on with that at a later date. But it was good to see a young singles competitor, Shawn Michaels. This can't have been too far after the breakup of the Rockers with him and Marty Jannetty. So,
yeah, Yeah.
I don't know when that happened. I think that must have been 91, 90, something
Something like
close
that.
to that. And it was only up from there for Shawn Michaels. Well, not only up.
Yeah.
He did have a period where he broke his back and
Yeah.
became addicted to painkillers and stuff. But I mean,
Yeah.
apart from that, I mean, like
From that.
championship wise and stuff.
Yeah, apart from that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Welcome, Future Wolfington. Found his way to YouTube to join us this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's good to know that that's working. You never know. You never know. Who isn't addicted to painkillers? Am I right? Right. Well, hopefully nobody in WWE anymore, because they've been drug tested for that since 2006.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed. Nobody. But yeah. I can see the appeal though. Like, you know, as somebody who has been medically given ketamine and was then on, what was it, oxycodone. Like, yeah, I can see the appeal of being addicted to painkillers, but you know, not today. Maybe another time. Maybe another time.
Not today.
And on that bombshell, should we crack on with the
that bombshell? Yes. The World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship was on the line next as the Beverly Brothers with the Genius challenged the champions, the Natural Disasters. The Beverleys tried to take advantage early with an attack at the bell, but they were soon squashed and separated by their much larger opponents. The only real offense the challengers got in happened after Earthquake accidentally squashed Typhoon in the corner. Beverly Brothers almost puts the match away after striking Typhoon in the back of the head with the Genius's metal scroll, but Earthquake intervened and broke up the pin. From there, Typhoon was able to get the tag to Earthquake, who was able to hit the Earthquake splash and pick up the win.
Yes, and a little note from this that I spotted. There was a very young, now head official of WWE, Mike Chioda.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked very young with his perm. But as I was watching him referee this match, I'm like, hey, his like style, his mannerisms have not changed at all. Like, he's still like in the face of everyone, like just with the same vigor and really pushing his moves into it. Like, that's referee 101 apparently, and he's been good at it for 25, nearly 30 years apparently. Did not know he'd been there that long. That was news to me. Good on him.
Now you do.
As far as the match is concerned, what did you think of it?
It was alright. It was just two overweight guys dancing around a little bit.
Very popular overweight guys, though.
Yes, very popular.
Earthquake and Typhoon are among the more popular wrestlers of this era, especially here. I don't know why. Maybe we relate more to gigantic overweight people in this country. I don't know, but Earthquake especially very, very popular in England, as was evidenced by the crowd here. I don't know if that's why they were then kind of put on the card, even though they didn't want to have them defend the championships against the actual number one contenders. Because as they mentioned, like later in the night, it should have either been the Nasty Boys or Money Inc. that were actually facing them for the gold. So and again, continues the theme of not really sure they wanted to put their full plan in effect for this show with the double count out so that we could carry on later and not the number one contenders for the tag team championships in the tag team championship match. It just screamed of, hey, we need to get Earthquake and Typhoon out there. Those Brits love them. Who can we put them up against? These guys that nobody really cares about. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah. Because nobody did care about the Beverly Brothers.
No.
Was it-
Nobody really did.
It was a good excuse to put the genius out there so that they could get that sweet Shakespeare reference in on commentary, though. You know?
Yeah.
If the genius didn't read a poem, how would they have ever thrown in Shakespeare? You've got to get all of those British references in. So, like, there's a checklist. How are you going to get a Shakespeare reference in without the genius doing a poem? I don't know.
Yeah.
And they really did tick all the boxes. Like, you know, we had Rule Britannia from the British Bulldogs entrance.
Yeah.
A tea reference. We did have a tea reference. Yes, absolutely. Had more than one tea reference.
Yeah.
You know, we had royalty. We had the what are they called? Beef eaters, are they? With the
the furry hat thing.
with the furry hats. Yeah, yeah. Not only for them, but for the Scottish as well. Yeah, we had fish and chips. Yeah, there was a fish and chips reference.
Yeah.
They had to get them all in, and I think they did
All
a
the
very good job.
stereotypes.
All of the stereotypes. So many British stereotypes. Yeah. Some of which are true. Some of which are not. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really the most British of British people, if I'm honest. So most of them just make my eyes recede into my head, and I'm not doing an Undertaker impression when I do. But yeah. Good job, America.
Yeah.
Got to get those English.
Well done, America.
Yeah. But as we move on, fish and chips sounds delicious. It is delicious.
It's delicious.
It is. That is one British thing that I'm all about. Living in a seaside town, if I didn't like fish, I would be in trouble, really.
You'd be screwed.
I would. Buy a fish. Anyway, moving on. As the sun started to go down over Wembley Stadium, the Repo Man, yes, that was his name, went one-on-one with Crush. Yes, that was his name too. The match was a fairly one-sided affair, and Crush was able to pick up the win with the Crusher. Marketing department doing great work here.
Fucking overtime there.
In 1992. Yes, the Crusher, which was a head squashing maneuver. Now, do I need to change the match that happened of the night, or can we have two?
We can have two.
Because this was definitely a match that happened.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why. I don't know why they want. I understand why they wanted to do the other thing. Like Virgil and I suppose they were similar matches, really.
Yeah.
Big guy whom they're trying to develop for the future.
Yeah.
Squashing another jobber person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we got two of the same thing.
Yeah.
It just felt like a cheap TV match rather than something that would have been on a pay-per-view. I'm not sure this would have been on a pay-per-view in the States. Not that there were too many of them in 1992, but
no.
It just, let's throw it in there for match sake.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's really not much to say about this match. I mean,
no.
I didn't enjoy it. So, yeah. That's no good. Seems like a cop-out. Yeah, it pretty much was. Yeah, you've nailed it. It's the filler match. It's a quick... Yeah. This show isn't long enough. Let's put out two wrestlers to...
more.
To
yeah.
fight.
There we go. Done.
It might have meant more to us had either of these people that they were trying to build actually gone on to do something in Crush and Nails, but neither of them did, so...
Nothing happened.
But that happens a lot in wrestling. The next big thing isn't. So, speaking of bizarre decisions, let's move on to our World Championship match in the middle of the show.
So, it was for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Actually, that belt there. Which was the Macho Man Randy Savage defending against the Ultimate Warrior. Speculation had been running wild all evening about whose corner Mr. Perfect would be in for the match. However, when the match began, neither Perfect nor his associate Ric Flair were anywhere to be seen. The match began as a hard-hitting back-and-forth affair, with the crowd going crazy for each man. The even contest for several near falls was eventually interrupted by Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect, who took attention away from the match with their very presence at ringside. Mr. Perfect tripped up Savage, suggesting he was aligned with Warrior. With the referee knocked down, Mr. Perfect held the Warrior to be punched by Flair with brass knuckles. Macho Man revived the official and hit his top rope elbow drop. The slow count allowed Warrior to kick out at 2. Warrior then fired up and took control, but as he was about to hit his big splash, he was struck in the back with a steel chair by Ric Flair. Macho Man took exception to the interference of Flair and Perfect and tried to dive onto Flair outside the ring from the top rope. Flair used the chair to take Savage out of the air, and the Macho Man was counted out. Beatdown continued after the bell, but the Ultimate Warrior placed the pair away with a steel chair. Warrior was awarded the win for the match, but as the title cannot change hands on a countout, Randy Savage was still the WWF champion.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I have mixed feelings about this match.
Go for it.
It was a great match, or at least it was going really well. I liked everything that happened in the ring between the Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage. They were having a great contest. It was very even. There were lots of near falls. You were going back and forth. But this speculation of whose corner is Mr. Perfect in was nonsense from the start. And I'm not sure if were wrestling audiences more gullible. He's breaking everything. Were wrestling audiences more gullible in 1992? Because to me, and even back then as a 6-year-old, it would have been obvious to me that Mr. Perfect was not with either of these guys, and that he was not aligned with anyone, and really was just trying was just trying to sow dissent between the two guys who were tag team partners and friends, ostensibly. It just seemed like a non-event, and the whole night of building towards a non-event was kind of disappointing to me. Also, the disqualification was, but I mean, I don't like disqualifications. Maybe I'm just jaded by the fact that this happens so regularly now. This wasn't quite as prevalent in 1992. You didn't get four matches a night ending on disqualification normally. This was an anomaly. But yeah, looking at it through the eyes of somebody in 2021, I'm a bit miffed that the World Championship match that's in the middle of the card, rather than being the main event, ended in disqualification. I'm just a little miffed by it, and it takes away from the match as a whole for me.
No, I actually agree with you there.
Yeah. And again, it's a shame because it was a great match in the making. Even with the Mr. Perfect stuff thrown in, it was fine. Them being there at ringside, kind of tripping one and like attacking the other behind the referee's back. I would have rather somebody won because of his intervention. Than the DQ. I don't think the DQ furthered the feud very much.
No.
It would have been nicer to have Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior leave this match going, no, it's definitely you that's working with Mr. Perfect, because he cost me the match. And he's like, no, he did that without my permission, and it become an argument. I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, this is a thing that didn't really work out as it was supposed to, because Macho Man left for WCW pretty soon afterwards.
Yeah.
In the mass exodus of everybody walking out and going to WCW for the money.
The money.
once they decided to
Guns for
start
money.
throwing Ted Turner's wallet around and all of the big guys left.
Yeah.
It kind of ruined a lot of the stories that
Yeah.
they've been trying to build.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Vince McMahon hates long-term storytelling now. It's because he tried long-term storytelling 30 years ago
Yeah.
and he couldn't do it because people kept
Didn't
leaving
work.
for more money.
Didn't work at all.
I'd be jaded too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So man just rocks back and forth.
Yeah. Now, so we'll go back to the fact that the main event wasn't for the WWE title, WWF title.
Yeah.
A bit later when we get to the main event, and we'll decide whether it was the right call or not. But next, following the World Championship match, was a match in which, accompanied by Harvey Whippleman and Kim Chi, Kamala took on The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Undertaker arrived on the back of a hearse to a raucous ovation and went right to work on the Ugandan giant, choking him in the corner. After hitting the move we now know as Old School successfully, it was just school then, I think, Taker went for it again, but this second time was thwarted by Kamala and he yanked the dead man down into the ring. Kamala's offense was short-lived though, as Taker hit the choke slam and was setting up for the tombstone piledriver when Kim Chi hit the dead man with his helmet, I think that's what it was, drawing a disqualification. Another disqualification. The end of the match did not deter Kamala as he delivered a series of splashes from the top rope. Much to the surprise of the Ugandan giant, however, Undertaker sat up and Kamala and his entourage were sent scurrying to the back.
Yeah, and Holly Me knows the Undertaker.
Whee! I mean, he had been wrestling as long as I've been alive, so
yeah,
he's retired now, but
yeah.
And for one company, impressively.
Yeah, he's impressive.
He didn't take Ted Turner's money, like the people we were
No.
discussing earlier.
Good man.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I liked seeing The Undertaker, and I bet the crowd at Wembley liked seeing The Undertaker. They had to wait for the sun to go down before they could do The Undertaker's entrance. I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah,
so
it was good.
We did need it at the end of the night. It was a good entrance. Like, that British-style hearse is a very kind of unique thing to see. They don't have hearses in the same style in the States. So, there's, regional variations. Good to bring that out as a, hey, here's what we do with our dead people over in the UK. Dead people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have hearses, but they look different. They're different cars.
Yeah.
Like ours look very Victorian in comparison, whereas theirs are more functional. I think. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm talking out of my butt, but it does seem to be the case from what I've seen. Is he like so old now? Well, yeah, he's nearing 60. He's 50 something, but he retired last year, so he's not gonna do anything more. It took him a while to retire. He was looking for that one last great match, and it took a while to happen. But he got it. He got it in the end, and literally rode off into the
sunset,
into the not sunset,
to the moon,
the night, the moon set.
Moon.
Yeah, into the night.
Yeah,
there you go.
Night.
That's what you would say, isn't it?
Yeah.
He rode off into the night on his motorbike.
Came badass.
Yeah, so good to see The Undertaker. I was fortunate enough to see The Undertaker live as well, which is great. Yeah. Did you not see The Undertaker?
Not live.
No, that's a shame. Yeah. I mean, I only got it once. Of all the times that I've... Oh, no, twice, actually. I tell a lie. Of all the times that I went to wrestling events, I got to see him once in Wembley Arena in London. And I got to see him in a Hell in a Cell match against Edge at SummerSlam 2008, which was cool.
Wow.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Go off.
Yeah, old school wrestling fan over here. Emphasis on the old.
Yep, old man.
Yeah. Let's move on before I start crying.
Yeah. So, For the main event, we were treated to a special bagpipe performance by the Balmoral Highlanders and Scotland's favourite 10 Scot, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Ah, yes, that famous Scottish person from
It's not
Canada,
Scottish.
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and good job overlooking the autocorrect that happened there. It actually says in the notes Rowdy Road Piper.
Yeah, Rowdy Road Piper.
Which is not his name.
Rowdy Road Piper.
Yeah, what did you think of the bagpipes?
All right. I don't think I paid much attention to this part.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it purely because it was a, hey, look, we're in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom isn't just England. Look, there's Scotland here too. So I liked that, at least.
Yeah.
And it was good to see that Rowdy Roddy Piper could actually play the bagpipes, despite him, hailing from Glasgow, Scotland, even though he's not Scottish, and he's has Canadian. He does have Scottish heritage, but it's normally the Americans that claim lineage from 6 generations ago, not the Canadians. So, but yeah, good to see some extra inclusion 30 years ago, representing the other nations of the UK rather than just England. And I was so happy with it that it made the notes. Otherwise, I would have just ignored it.
There we go.
Yes, and another thing that I was happy with was the main event of this show, which was an Intercontinental Championship match between British Bulldog, who was accompanied by boxer Lennox Lewis, who was very big at the time, and Bret the Hitman Hart. The match started off as a technical affair that everyone expected from the two of the best wrestlers in the world. As Bret Hart started to become irked by the reaction of the pro-British Bulldog crowd, the match spilled out of the ring and Bulldog found himself slammed into the ground and driven back first into the ring post. Bret continued to wear down his brother-in-law as his sister, who was the British Bulldog's wife, looked on from ringside. The offense of Hitman gradually got more dirty as he failed to put the Bulldog away, but still Bret could only achieve near falls. When Bulldog finally did get himself back in the match, he hit the running power slam, but this was not enough to put the Intercontinental Champion away, and neither was a huge superplex from the top rope. Hart locked in a sharpshooter, but Bulldog reached the ropes. The Hitman then went for a sunset flip, but the British Bulldog countered it, sitting on the chest of Hart to receive a 3 count and become the new Intercontinental Champion in his home country.
What a reaction he got when he won.
Oh, yes. Yes. Still, to this day, arguably, the biggest British wrestling superstar to have existed.
Yeah.
We have had others since, including our friend Wade Barrett, who features in our news sting. He was also Intercontinental Champion a number of times, and now commentates on that colourful delight known as NXT 2.0.
Yeah, NXT 2.0.
Yeah, which is dead to me now. But we still haven't had an English world champion. We've had a British world champion now, when Drew McIntyre won the WWE Championship last year for the first time.
Not an English one, though.
We haven't had an English world champion, no. And British Bulldog, which I can't say British Bulldog. I have to do it in the colloquial British Bulldog.
British.
Never won the world championship. He might have done. No, he wouldn't have done. I mean, he did try and have a brief comeback in the year 2000. That didn't work out. And he died in 2002, I believe. At a very young age. I think he was in his early 40s when he died. Unfortunately. So Intercontinental Championship was the most that he achieved. But you're right, boy did he get a massive reaction for winning the Intercontinental Championship here. And I think there might have been some kind of riot if Bret Hart had have retained the championship.
Oh, Yeah.
especially considering they'd pushed this match to the main event.
Yeah.
It's not very often.
There'd be fight going on.
Not very often the Intercontinental Championship gets top billing over the World Championship.
Yeah.
It happens every now and again, but it's not frequent. And with that said, do you think it was the right call to move this match to the main event, displace the World Championship match?
I think it is. It was.
Yeah, having watched the whole event, I think it was the right move.
Yeah.
It confused the hell out of me in the middle, and I'm like, because I was literally like finishing up my notes, getting ready to wrap up, and then it's like, okay, and now here comes Kamala. I'm like, wait, what? I thought that was I thought that was the show. Yeah. So it was slightly confusing. I hope nobody left the arena like as soon as the bell rung in the WWF Championship match.
Sucks to be them.
But I assume they knew what the main event was. I did not. I did not know anything about the card coming into this because I had not watched this event before.
Oh, I hadn't either.
This was my first time. Absolutely cracking match. The best example of wrestling in this period, I think, and that change that was coming from the cartoonish, big, hyperinflated muscle kind of men of the 80s into the smaller, younger, more athletic, more technical wrestlers of especially moving into the late 90s of, Bret Hart and his brother Owen, and then moving into guys like Jericho and Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin, all of those guys who could wrestle rather than just pick up a dude and slam him down again and then rock the biceps. I think this is definitely a turning point. The fact that it got the main event in this style of wrestling that was really, really big, I think. And I suppose the tone was set in was it the previous year or the year must have been 2 years before, maybe 3 years before, the Macho Man and Steamboat Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania. That was really the first one that started to change the winds, and I think this one really, really set things in motion. Like within a year, Bret Hart was world champion and feuding with Shawn Michaels over the championship. So it really did change the style of wrestling. Change from this point on, really.
Cool.
So that is the end of the event. That was actually the main event. That's where the fans went home happy, and so we must now give it a rating. Now this is a very critically acclaimed, well loved, even to this day event. So will we agree? And I ask you, Dan, first of all, before I weigh in, give me your rating. And our rating system for today, please give me a rating out of 5 Wembley stadiums.
Righty-ho. I think it was a brilliant pay-per-view overall. Did have the 2 matches that happened, though. Unfortunately.
You can't forget that.
I'm going to give it 4.
4? Okay. No, Holly, he had not. No, neither of us had seen this event before today. Well, I assume you watched it today. When did you watch this?
I watched it over the course of a week.
Oh, okay. Bit by bit.
Bit by bit.
Jez never has time for that. Jez has to watch events on the day that we watch them. Also, I forget bits otherwise. My memory's not so good. If I don't watch it hours before going live, then I'll forget. Right, Wembley Stadium's out of 5 for me. I can't give it a 4. And it's more I'm starting at 5 and then working my way back. It loses points for the disqualification in the World Championship match. It loses points for the 2 matches that happened. It loses points for me because although this was a pay-per-view event, it seemed like they were more content to set up things for the future than they were to pay off storylines and finish things off at this event. Because even with this Intercontinental Championship match, the original plan when SummerSlam was supposed to be in America was that it was going to be Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels would win the belt.
Right.
Even though they changed it up, like going to England. England's got mega popularity with the WWF at the moment, so we'll go to England, we'll cash in there. So they give the belt to British Bulldog. Even though that happened less than a month later, I believe, if not around a month later, Bulldog dropped the belt to Shawn Michaels. So they stuck with that original plan anyway.
Yeah.
Which cheapens it. And I know I'm using a lot of hindsight there.
Yeah.
But, you know, we are talking about a nearly 30-year-old event, so I'm going to use a bit of hindsight. True. So it loses some points for that. It is definitely the best event of that era that we have watched in doing this show. It's a whole hell of a lot better than the last SummerSlam that we watched from this era. What was that, 1989? That was terrible. So I'm going to give it, I can't give it a 4. I'm going to give it 3.75.
3 3/4.
Yeah. I mean, they did demolish Wembley Stadium, so I feel like we can have like parts of Wembley Stadium. We're using Wembley Stadiums out of 5, so it's 3 whole Wembley Stadiums, and like most of Wembley Stadium except for like the big gantry that goes around the outside, maybe, or we'll take some seats out.
Take some seats out
to get it down from.
Be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Righty ho.
Not the seats. Well, they can sit on the floor. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you have to take a lot of seats into Wembley Stadium for a wrestling show anyway, because normally where, you know, the football field, pitch, whatever you want to call it, is the grass bit is, that's all empty because the ring isn't as big as a football field. So you
bring in chairs.
You put your chairs out, so you can take some chairs from higher up.
Yeah.
So whatever, some chairs can go. Yeah.
There you go.
That was a tangent. Oh yeah.
That was a tangent.
Wrestling isn't that big, is it? In it, little box.
Wrestling.
That's right. Yeah. I know the tone in which she said that. Like I can hear that.
Oh dear. I see that.
No, I wasn't being derogatory, Holly. I just know what you were doing. I know what you were saying. I know the way that you were saying it.
Oh dear.
Yeah. You meant thanks for the stream. Oh, okay, that wasn't clear. That wasn't clear. Thanks for box. I thought you were calling the wrestling ring a box. There you go. Fine.
Yeah. Anyway, this is just going off on a different.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it is a tangent. So we are, on that note, going to draw things to a close. As Restream tell us that we have received 100 messages today in the chat.
Yeah.
Cool. We are back with more retro next Tuesday because they're still insisting on this other event.
Saudi Arabia rubbish.
So we've done England this week. We're going to go to another iconic outside of the US event or series of events, I guess. We are going to look at the WWE Global Warning Tour from Australia in 2002. I think the actual event that they gave us on DVD and now on the WWE Network is all from one night, but I'm not sure. I think it's generally about the entire tour that they did of Australia in the autumn of 2002. So yeah, we're going to look at that. Really the first major event that Australia got. Made a big deal of that. And there really aren't that many others that we can make a big deal of outside of North America.
Oh, there isn't.
Apart from the ones in Korea that you can't find anywhere for love nor money that WCW did. Did you know that WCW went to North Korea for a wrestling event?
I knew of it.
Yeah.
A
joint
weird.
event of WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. They went to North Korea.
Wow.
Crazy.
Weird.
Wish I could find that, but it's not on the WWE network for perhaps obvious reasons.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks to all that have joined us,
Yeah.
either here on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, live, or whether you're listening later in podcast form. We truly appreciate you, and we hope to see you, hear you. You hear us. You know what I'm saying. Can't use words. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Dan.
Bye.
My brain is broken. I'm old.
You're old.